Greetings and welcome to another impressions video here at Words About Games, and today we're going to be looking at Sinner: Sacrifice for Redemption. Sinner is a fascinating game. It's a tough as nails Souls-like game that, while drawing immediate comparisons to Dark Souls thanks to its challenge level and core gameplay, also chooses to deviate from its most obvious inspiration in a number of key areas. The result is a brutally difficult boss rush game that isn't afraid to kick your teeth in, providing you haven't already ground them into dust as you hurl yourself time after time against each of its 8 bosses. Sinner's most inspired idea is right in the subtitle: Sacrifice for Redemption. After an all too brief tutorial that doesn't quite teach you everything you need to know, you find yourself in an area with 7 stone monuments. Each one represents one of the 7 deadly sins and one of the game's bosses. By touching one of these stones, you'll be transported to an arena to face down one of these intimidating monstrosities. The catch is that each boss will level down one of your abilities or hinder you in some way, taking away your attack power, health, stamina, supplies, or giving you a negative status effect, such as being temporarily incapacitated when your stamina bar runs dry. Successfully defeat a boss and this downgrade will stick with you for the rest of the game, though you can choose to back out at any time, regain what you lost, and tackle a different boss if you want to try something different. It's an inspired gameplay mechanic, leveling down rather than up the further into the game you progress, and forms the core of what makes Sinner stand out. Each of the game's 7 initial bosses is very different from the others and will certainly suit different playstyles, so it becomes a choice of what order you choose to take on the game's bosses. Do you fight the ones that give you the most trouble first while you still have most of your abilities largely intact, or do you prioritise the order in which you lose the abilities that are most precious to you, knowing that a tough fight could be made that much more tougher further down the line? It's a fascinating balancing act to consider, and one which runs counter to every other RPG I can recall. One of the more manageable bosses in the game, for example, also lowers your maximum health and stamina. Do you accept that downgrade early, or have a tougher time fighting said boss later down the line with even more negative effects weighing you down? It's almost like Mega Man in reverse as you try to plot a course through each boss, except without the bonus of new upgrades at the end of each fight. And therein lies the caveat. While this is an interesting premise in theory, in practice it can be incredibly frustrating to progress backwards the better you're doing, like being rewarded for completing a difficult challenge with a swift kick to the crotch. Beyond moving one step closer to finishing the game, progression doesn't really seem to exist in Sinner, at least not in any way you'll be used to in an RPG. Yes, games generally have a difficulty curve that goes up as you get deeper, but they usually also reward you with more power for passing certain milestones. Here, your reward is less of something: vital supplies, health, attack power, and more. That's not to say that this is necessarily a bad thing. It's an incredibly novel system, but novel doesn't automatically mean good, and Sinner is a game aimed at someone looking for a very particular type of experience. For me, after a few hours of eating downgrades and crashing against the game's bosses, all I was feeling was pure frustration. I had no real desire to continue on, as there wasn't really anything in the rest of the game to drive me forward beyond a desire to not let the game beat me, which was a desire that quickly faded. That stems from the rest of the game being workmanlike at best and uninteresting at worst. The core gameplay is fine. You control the slow-moving nameless wanderer, armed with a 2-handed sword, a sword and a shield, and a smattering of items: healing orbs, bombs, javelins, and flaming swords. There's no real variety to your weapons or moveset. While each boss fight is incredibly well designed, with each boss and each phase within their encounters feeling like a devilish puzzle to be solved, because of the lack of variety in your tactical options, you're left with the feeling that you're kind of just doing the same thing over and over again. Similarly, there's no real narrative incentive to push through Sinner's punishing difficulty. The story is threadbare at best, told through a series of short cutscenes that trigger before facing a boss for the first time. The world itself feels drab and uninspired. While each boss is really intricately designed, their arenas are drab, generic, and kinda lifeless. There's no sense of wonder and nothing to really latch onto as you move from arena to arena, fighting bosses that don't seem to have much tie to the sins they supposedly represent. Like I said earlier, Sinner: Sacrifice for Redemption is a game for a very specific audience. With its competent core gameplay mechanics and unique level down system, it's great for anyone looking for a challenge for the sake of it. Solving the puzzles of how to take down each boss and balance the downgrades you receive by doing so will appeal to a certain type of gamer. But it's also definitely an experience that won't be for everybody. If you need more than difficulty for the sake of difficulty, you might find yourself simply frustrated as you metaphorically bash your head against Sinner's unique brand of masochism. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. If you've enjoyed it, please keep it here at Words About Games. We've got tons of content, including our weekly podcast, more impressions videos, patch notes, and our weekly indie game of the week. We also stream over on Twitch at twitch.tv/wordsaboutgames every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. And most importantly, have a great day.